Oh my God, it's moving.
What would be up there?
I have no idea.
The face is here at first, but not.
Close encounters with Bigfoot are rare, but those who claim to have experienced them describe moments of sheer terror, overwhelming awe, and even bizarre, unexplained phenomena. But what really happens when you're in Bigfoot's presence? Let's break it down. Southern Ontario Sasquatch is a YouTube channel famous for exploring mysterious forest structures that seem to appear in the wilderness without explanation. The channel follows years of first-hand encounters, starting with a life-changing sighting during a solo berry-picking trip. Since then, the search has never stopped, revealing strange and intricate formations deep in the woods. These structures often consist of carefully placed branches, twisted twine, and even artificial objects like fabric and plastic string, leading to endless speculation about their origins. Some believe they are the work of forest beings. Others see them as mimicry of human shelters. But the patterns are undeniable.
Last fall, against this fallen tree were these small branches stood.
These formations follow a unique style that continues to evolve. Deep within an area that hasn't been visited in 7 months, something unexpected appears. Last fall, against a massive fallen tree, a collection of small standing branches formed an unusual display. Now, something even stranger has been added. A larger branch, perfectly positioned, as if it was carefully placed rather than randomly fallen.
This Y branch right here is just being balanced on the ground.
Just beyond, an improvised canopy-like structure takes shape, balancing on a Y-shaped branch with a tree crossing overhead. The presence of plastic string, seemingly tied with purpose, raises even more questions. It wraps tightly around the branches, securing them in place as if someone, or something, wants them to hold firm. Even more curiously, another branch has been woven into the structure without offering any visible support. Every detail suggests intent. But by whom? Watch closely, and the evidence speaks for itself. Moving deeper into the forest, an even larger structure comes into view, one that defies explanation. In November, it was already an impressive sight, but now it has grown into something almost architectural. The complexity of the roof alone challenges any assumption that this is a naturally fallen arrangement. Layers of branches interlock in a way that seems too deliberate to be random. The creators, whoever they may be, seem to specialize in building overhead covers, forming intricate roofs across the landscape. Some believe it's a form of mimicry, an attempt to replicate human shelters without fully understanding their function. Others argue that these are protective barriers, marking an unseen presence in the wilderness. The craftsmanship of this particular roof suggests a level of planning that goes beyond accidental placement. Each element is carefully woven into the next, balancing on live trees, leaning against massive fallen trunks, and even incorporating freshly snapped branches, still green with moisture. The structure is not just growing, it's evolving. There is something extraordinary happening here, and the evidence is undeniable.
Oh my God! It's blowing mine because it wasn't anywhere near as finished as this in the fall. All it was, this is built on a massive, enormous Y branch.
Further along the riverbank, an unexpected discovery brings even more questions.
Again, this is along the same river where my teddy bear showed up, where the fire came through, where I found about 15 structures all in that one particular area.
The site where a teddy bear once mysteriously appeared is now a graveyard of structures, with nearly 15 of them scattered across the landscape. Some remain intact, while others have been altered or destroyed, possibly by a fire that passed through the area. What stands out most is a peculiar fire pit, one that has never been lit.
A couple random stones, brick, piece of old asphalt it looks like. A few pieces of wood, nothing's been burned. Nice sitting log, little piece of paper, make it look like it's all ready to be lit.
Arranged in a near-perfect circle, stones, old asphalt, and bits of wood form the illusion of a human-made campsite. But the details tell a different story. A sitting log is positioned as if waiting for someone, and a small piece of paper is placed at the center, as though prepared to be burned. But there are no signs of ash, no scorch marks, nothing that suggests a real fire was ever started. It's as if someone, or something, is imitating human behavior without fully understanding it. Could this be another sign of mimicry? A symbolic recreation of something seen but never experienced? The mystery only deepens as more details emerge. Each discovery raises more questions than answers. These structures, whether intentional or coincidental, follow a pattern too distinct to ignore. Are they remnants of a lost human presence? Or do they belong to something far older, something hiding in plain sight? Whatever the answer, the forest holds its secrets well, and the search for truth continues.
Hey fam, ready for nightmares? Check out Knock Knock for the scariest, most bone-chilling encounters caught on camera. Link in the description. If you dare.
A search for Sasquatch in the Rocky Mountains and Pacific Northwest. Bigfoot is on the verge of discovery. Subscribe for weekly updates of Bigfoot sightings across these regions. In the Yukon, a chilling Bigfoot encounter was reported by Ernie McGregor, a 30-year resident and prospector.
Ernie McGregor, a 30-year resident of the Yukon, liked to prospect and gold mine with his family.
In 2009, Ernie and his wife Kim were on a gold prospecting trip in a remote area northeast of Haines Junction.
On one prospecting trip with his wife in 2009 in a remote area northeast of Haines Junction,
they parked their truck and ATVs and settled into their tent for the night.
On the night of the encounter around 10 p.m., they retired to the tent for the night.
Around 10 p.m., they retired for the night. Being summertime, it remained light until late. Around 1 a.m., they were awakened by a loud hooting sound followed by a deep, resonant bellow. The noise was alarmingly close, only about 100 yards from their tent. These eerie vocalizations continued for hours, coming from two different directions, suggesting they were surrounded. Suddenly, the sounds grew closer.
The sound was alarmingly close, around 100 yards from their tent. This lasted off and on for several hours,
and they began to hear popping or clapping noises. Fearful, Ernie exited the tent and fired warning shots into the darkness. The noises stopped, and whatever was out there retreated.
Ernie got out of the tent and fired some warning shots trying to scare them away, and it did.
Convinced they had been terrorized by a pair of Sasquatch, the couple hiked back to their truck the next day. Along the way, Ernie saw a large black figure moving from tree to tree, seemingly keeping pace with them. In 2015, Ernie returned to the area alone for a multi-day prospecting trip. When he returned to camp one evening, he found it completely destroyed. A powerful stench filled the air, a mix of wet dog, rotting flesh, and something unrecognizable.
In 2015, when Ernie was out prospecting alone for 4 or 5 days, on one of the days when he returned to camp, it was completely destroyed.
Shaken, Ernie quickly packed his belongings onto his ATV and left. These encounters permanently changed his life. He no longer enjoys camping as he once did, and is hyper-aware of every sound in the wilderness. The creature that stared him down looked anything but friendly.
These two encounters have permanently changed Ernie's life. He doesn't enjoy camping like he used to, and when he's out there, he wakes up.
Russell shares a terrifying encounter from 1992, when his parents lived in a remote cottage a mile outside Mayo, Yukon.
In 1992, my father and mother were very poor. We lived in a cottage a mile away from the small city of Mayo in Yukon, Canada.
His father worked tirelessly to save money so they could eventually move to a better place. Their only protection was their loyal German shepherd, Barney. One fateful night,
It was evening and was snowstorming. My mom was in the living room with me sleeping in her arms.
A monstrous roar echoed outside their home, waking Russell's mother and making baby Russell cry. His mother asked his father what it was, but he remained silent, grabbing a shotgun and instructing her to hide in the wardrobe with their baby. Through the window, he saw a massive creature staring directly at their home. But there wasn't just one. Two more figures lurked nearby, watching. One was jet black like the first, but the third was even larger, determined to confront whatever was outside.
Human-like tracks. He measured one to be 53 to 55 centimeters.
Russell's father stepped out, shotgun in hand. He discovered three distinct sets of human-like tracks, one measuring 53 to 55 centimeters, another 60 centimeters, and the largest over 70 centimeters. Following the tracks in the direction Barney had run, he made a devastating discovery. Barney's lifeless body, his head crushed. Judging by the damage, these creatures had easily overpowered the large German shepherd. Heartbroken, Russell's father buried Barney in their yard.
2 weeks after this event, my dad got enough money for us to move to the city of Whitehorse and buy a house there. We moved and lived there to this day.
2 weeks later, he had saved enough money to move his family to Whitehorse, far from the terror they had endured. Later, Russell's father reflected on what he had seen. The largest creature, covered in white fur, appeared old and slightly hunchbacked. He believed it might have been injured or suffering from age-related issues, as its tracks suggested it had been dragging one of its legs.
The big one may have had an old age-related physical disability or was injured and so was dragging its leg.
The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RMSO, speculated that this could have been a sign of an aging Sasquatch with physical limitations. Regardless, the encounter left a permanent mark on Russell's family. These Yukon Bigfoot encounters continue to fuel speculation and belief in the existence of Sasquatch. Have you ever had a Bigfoot encounter or know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Keep watching. We're going to keep on squatching. World Bigfoot Central is a YouTube channel famous for sharing up-to-date news and stories about Bigfoot, strange creatures, the paranormal, and even hidden science and conspiracies. In August 2024, Duke and Johnny Charlo revisit Mount Sentinel and Coloma, places where they've had serious Bigfoot encounters before. During their trips on August 19th, 22nd, and 25th, they search old hotspots for signs of activity. They find impressive tracks measuring 12, 15, 19, and even 22 inches. The area also has old structures, including a 25-foot arch and a teepee where they once filmed a 12-foot-tall Bigfoot called Mr. Big. They're back now to see if the Sasquatch have returned.
So anyway, there used to be a Sasquatch hanging around in this area. We found structures and tracks.
On their way up Mount Sentinel, Duke explains how this area used to be full of stick structures and tracks until people found his videos and came up to cut things down. Now he's back, scanning for new signs. As he rests on the ridge, he lays out his gear: a camera, a tape measure, and even a Bigfoot field guide. Then he starts searching the ridge top, looking for clues. Off in the distance, he spots areas where he believes the Sasquatch might still be. Watch closely. The scenery is rugged and remote. Thick forest fire smoke hangs in the air as Duke climbs a steep slope, preparing to investigate. He reminds viewers that having basic tools like a tape measure is crucial when searching for Bigfoot evidence. Not long after, he stumbles upon a hidden structure, possibly built by the creatures. Unlike before, this one isn't visible from the old access road, making it less likely humans found and destroyed it. He wonders, could Bigfoot have returned and rebuilt? Look carefully at the area he's exploring. Later, he reads a chilling story from Bigfoot Michigan Rob's book. It tells of a Wyoming biologist in 1972 who survived a terrifying Bigfoot encounter. The creature stalks his tent, throws pine cones at him, and even swats his shelter flat, with a hairy, human-like hand. Duke reflects on a similar experience from his childhood.
Like 3 or 4 times it threw something at me, and a couple times I saw what it was. The last 3, time number 3 and not time number 4, they were acorns.
When something threw acorns at him in a pine forest, acorns that shouldn't have even been there. Strange happenings like this are often reported in Bigfoot territory. Pay attention to these patterns. Returning to the ridge, Duke spots a possible structure between 2 large trees. He guides the viewers toward it for a closer look. This spot was once loaded with stick formations and evidence of Sasquatch. He then heads to another area where they left apples as bait. From a distance, he can see the apples are untouched. Something odd catches his eye. An old tree stump that was there earlier is now gone.
Thunderstorm rolling in, being on an exposed ridge line. This isn't a good place to be. So I guess I'm not going to be able to do any more filming today.
As thunder rumbles in the distance, he decides to pack up before the storm hits. These moments capture the eerie feeling of the place. Later in the week, Duke and Johnny head back to Coloma. Johnny takes point searching the gully basin while Duke follows along the old roadbed. They're trying to find the exact spot where Johnny once caught something peeking at him between 2 trees.
Again, about the same size. Mr. 15-inch track here, running up and down the hillside.
As they search, Johnny spots a fresh 15-inch track. Duke confirms it by measuring it on camera. Johnny notes that once you know what to look for, finding tracks becomes easier. The team finds several more deep impressions, solid evidence that something heavy is moving through this area. Watch for the footprint details as they measure. Western Bigfoot Exploration is a YouTube channel dedicated to uncovering the mysteries of Bigfoot in the rugged and remote landscapes of the western United States. Jonathan, an experienced hiker and backpacker, ventures deep into the wilderness, far beyond where most have dared to go, in search of evidence. With each journey, he dives into the history of the land, explores the legends surrounding the creature, and brings his audience along for the adventure.
When they were making the logging roads in, and that's when Tom Slick found this camp on the map.
For some, the belief in Bigfoot is built on thousands of eyewitness accounts. Others approach it scientifically, examining footprints, vocalizations, and patterns of reported sightings. And then there are those who don't see it as a belief at all. It's a fact, something they know is real because they've seen it with their own eyes. In Northern California, one location has become synonymous with these encounters: Bluff Creek.
Jerry Crew's finding down there, and it wasn't but a couple of miles upriver, up creek, where they had the fuel barrels stashed, that Jerry Crew found the fuel barrels thrown into the creek too.
In the late 1950s and early 70s, logging crews working deep in the forests of Six Rivers National Forest returned to town with unsettling stories. Massive footprints appeared overnight. Heavy machinery was inexplicably overturned. Large humanoid figures lurked in the trees. In 1958, a road construction worker named Jerry Crew discovered enormous footprints in the dirt. His Hoopa native co-workers recognized them instantly, claiming they belonged to a giant that had always lived in these lands. Crew made a plaster cast of one of the tracks, and when a Eureka journalist published the story, it gained national attention. The legend of Bigfoot had taken root. On the afternoon of October 20th, 1967, everything changed. As they rode along the creek, a massive root system blocked their view of the path ahead. Rounding the bend, they spotted something moving. Patterson's horse reared, throwing him off, but in the chaos he managed to grab his camera. Sprinting forward, he fumbled with the device, but kept filming. The figure moved methodically through the clearing, its muscular frame unmistakable. The footage that followed would become the most famous Bigfoot evidence in history. Watch closely. Something worth seeing happens here.
Tree with a large root system impeding their view of what lie ahead, and when they turn the corner.
The The daylight faded fast. Knowing the storm was closing in, Patterson and Gimlin documented the footprints left behind. Patterson swapped out the film under a tarp, still unsure whether he had captured anything of value. The rain hit hard the next morning, turning the route back into a treacherous mess of mud and washed-out trails. Gimlin skillfully navigated their truck out of the forest, determined to get the film developed. Once back, Patterson wasted no time. He met with Al Hodgson, a Bigfoot researcher and store owner in Willow Creek, urging him to visit the site. He insisted the footprints couldn't have been faked. There was only one set, no disturbances, suggesting a hoax. Soon, experts arrived, including journalist John Green and taxidermist Bob Titmus. Their conclusion? The prints were legitimate. More than 50 years have passed, but Bluff Creek remains a place of mystery.
Bigfoot stuff like that seems to happen all the time. Why don't you film it? Well, because my camera was, well, how was your camera low?
Jonathan sets out to retrace the footsteps of Patterson and Gimlin, venturing into the same dense forests. Navigating the thick brush, he quickly realizes how challenging the terrain is. The steep embankments, tangled vegetation, and winding creeks create a near impenetrable environment. Watch this carefully. This moment is telling.
Here goes that famous root ball. So this is what I'm guessing. We went down this way. I believe this is the way I already said.
As night falls, exhaustion sets in. Sitting by the fire, Jonathan watches the surrounding darkness, hoping his night vision camera will capture something moving in the trees. Then, a sound breaks the silence.
Did you hear that?
A long, resonant call echoes down the canyon. It's deep, powerful, unlike any known animal in the area. Listen closely. This could be important.
Did you hear that?
Just when it seems the night couldn't get any stranger, lights appear in the distance. At first, they resemble distant car lights flickering through the trees. Then, figures approach the camp. Unexpected visitors.
There's someone squatching on Onion Lake Road. We just heard a Sasquatch.
I see lights coming from over there. They look like car lights.
Rowdy Kelly of the Bluff Creek Project and his friend Greg have arrived, bringing new energy to the search. As morning comes and the group packs up camp, something strange is recorded on camera. A 7.5-minute clip shows everyone standing within a few steps of each other. Then, less than a minute later, an anomaly appears. Something unexplainable. Review this footage carefully. Bluff Creek still holds its secrets. The footprints, the film, the stories. They all point to something existing in these woods, something that continues to evade discovery. Whether it's an undiscovered species, a lost primate, or something beyond explanation, one thing is certain: the search is far from over. Could something still be moving through these forests, hidden just beyond the firelight? Hellbent Holler is a tech-driven, boots-on-the-ground investigation team focused on Sasquatch, Dogman, and the paranormal. Hailing from the Carolinas, Hellbent Holler is a two-person research team that investigates all manners of high strangeness in the southern Appalachians.
18 hours ago, we get this report that two guys were traveling down an old Forest Service road.
From the forests of the land between the lakes to the mountains of North Georgia, Hellbent Holler takes a tech-driven, yet unconventional approach to exploring mysterious phenomena. The duo has researched Sasquatch, Dogman, anomalous lights, and wilderness paranormal activity. Hellbent Holler consists of Joe, who has spent the last 2 decades looking into the existence of Bigfoot in the southern states, and Jesse Lee, a longtime researcher of the paranormal and occult. The two members combine, and sometimes contrast, their research methods and philosophies on various phenomena to create a unique and holistic approach to their search for answers.
Say Sasquatch is a thing that is so close to nature, like deer. When they know and sense a major weather event coming, it seems like they get out of Dodge, they go to safety.
Less than 18 hours ago, we received a report from this area. Here's what's crazy about it. 18 hours ago, we got this report that two guys were traveling down an old Forest Service road
When they saw a dark figure in the middle of the road, and it darted off to the right into the forest.
when they saw a dark figure in the middle of the road. It darted off to the right into the forest. They got in touch with us because they know about our channel. They've seen our channel before, and we decided to mobilize. What's crazy about this too is that less than 12 hours ago, a crazy storm hit. Here, we've got a bit of a path going off into the woods. Do you want to kind of go into this? Yeah, let's check that out. Hey, you got a lot of creek bed running back through here, so I can get my chest pan. There we go. All right, let me look over here real quick. Lots of old creek beds crisscrossing back through here, boy.
It's headed that way. Whatever this is, take a look. What does it look like to you?
Yeah, it does.
Looks like we're running into a lot of old creek beds through here. Now, areas like that are great for marking indentations very, very clearly.
Got a bit of a path going off into the woods here.
We do have a bit of a path. You want to kind of go into this?
Yeah, let's check that out.
Check this out right here. Now, this is in the middle of this roadbed, in the middle of this mud. So this got a deluge of water over the past 10 hours.
So this got a deluge of water over the past, 10 hours. This has just gotten a deluge of water.
This has just gotten a deluge of water, so this would have been gone. This is pretty recent. Now, it is still kind of washed out and faded a bit because it's taking on water right now.
So this would have been gone. This is pretty recent. Now it is still kind of washed out and faded a bit because it's taking on water right now.
But that is a very clear foot shape, isn't it? You can still see a little bit of the big toe mark.
But that is a very clear foot shape, isn't
You can
it?
still see a little bit of the big toe mark.
Yeah, right here.
You can still see a little bit of the...
Yeah, right here. You can still see a little bit of the big toe mark, but yeah, water is taking it away pretty quickly. But look, that's a print. That's fresh as all get out.
Footprint you left normally
Yeah.
is not anywhere near as deep as that.
Uh-huh.
So,
And then look where you're at. We're downhill right.
That's super fresh. Yeah, and this area is so undisturbed, such a short time ago. So this is exciting. This is something super fresh. Do you want to head in that direction that it's going?
So this is something super fresh. This is
you want to
very,
head in that
very
direction
fresh.
that it's going?
Yeah, it's going that way. Let's it looks like there's some.
Yeah, it's going that way. It looks like there are some strange land formations that way too. So let's do it. Let's follow the track, follow the path, take us on in. There is a path of travel here that we're following right now. Got a drop off right up here.
Honestly, that looks like a thing. Look at the...
Look how this is almost like a huge print to me.
That's a big one, and that is definitely headed in that direction.
Yeah, but you see this kind of.
I don't know how far. Look at this. What's going on? Weird. All right, let's take a look at this.
So this is something super fresh. This is
You want to
very,
head in that
very
direction
fresh.
that it's going?
Yeah, it's going that way. Let's
That's been bent over and thrust into this collection of brush and vines. This is a living tree right here, and it's bent and broken. So this is a living tree. You can't snap anything off of it.
This is a living tree right here. And it's bent and broken, so this is a living tree. You can't snap anything off of it.
It's a living tree. This is a living tree. There's a lot going on here right now. There's a lot going on. I'm going to step out of the way so you can get some good shots of that. Watch out. Are you okay? Holes. Yeah, I just went in a couple inches right here. All right, get a shot of that. Just take a... We need to be real careful. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, my foot is just going down in.
You got the heel here, and then that inner part of that foot, that right foot right there. But there's a slide. You can see it in the mud here.
There's a pit, broken off at the base and leaned onto this as well. All of these are live trees. And then this other one has been bent over the live tree and has been pinned at the bottom here. This is bizarre.
18?
18 inches. Oh boy.
Yeah, so we're looking at the tip toe. Now listen.
This is a very complex situation here. I don't know what it is. There are some interesting bends over here I want to check out, and then we'll continue to follow this track.
A non-thing, but
Honestly, that looks like a thing. Look at the...
look out.
I'll go this way to check it out. You just follow me this way. Whoa, terrain's getting weird over here. There are some drop-offs, and then we're getting into some depressed areas over here.
Broken off at the base and leaned onto this as well. All of these are live trees.
And then this other one has been bent over the line.
Okay, so we got kind of a weird situation right here just adjacent to that other one. That is a dead tree. The one that's arched is dead. The roots were pulled out of the ground. The root ball is still attached. We're going to head over there in 1 second. Wind's getting worse. Yeah, we're going to need to kind of put it into high gear. Blue Line Bigfoot is a YouTube channel known for its Bigfoot encounters, often exploring remote regions of New York. In this episode, Jake and Adam travel to the rugged wilderness of the Adirondack Park to meet with Barb Hotez, a local resident with a chilling story. What begins as a casual interview soon turns into one of their most intense investigations yet. Barb claims she came face to face with something unexplainable, something massive, right in her own backyard. This might be the start of something bigger in the Bigfoot community.
Jake and I, we heard through the grapevine that you had a personal experience here with a creature.
Bigfoot.
It all happened back in 2012, in that strange time between winter and spring. Barb recalls it was raining as dusk settled over her home. She was watching TV when her dog, Bo, suddenly started barking. At first, she thought he needed to go out, but Bo's reaction was different this time. He stood frozen on the deck, his hair bristling, growling at something in the distance. That's when Barb saw it. A huge figure stood by the tree line. At first glance, she thought it was a man, but as she got a better look, the truth became more terrifying. It wasn't a man at all. It was something bigger, covered in long, matted hair, and it carried a stench that hit her hard, a foul, rotting garbage smell. When she fired her gun twice in the air, the creature turned and disappeared into the woods in just a few steps.
Bigfoot, you're just gonna come out and say it.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
I'm telling you, it was Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, okay.
I think it's 2012. It's either April or March. I can't remember.
Since that night, things around Barb's property have never been the same. The woods that once felt peaceful now feel empty and tense. Deer that used to roam freely vanished. She hasn't seen a single one in over 5 months. Every morning, food she leaves out is mysteriously gone. And on calm nights, eerie sounds echo through the trees, sounds that she can't explain. They're loud, unnatural, and enough to keep her indoors after dark. Barb admits she now locks her doors and avoids areas she once loved, like the berry patches down the trail.
I was watching TV. Bo started barking. I thought he had to go out. I came to the back door, let him out.
She's lived in the mountains for 14 years without fear, but this encounter changed everything. See what we mean? When describing the creature, Barb is clear. Its hair was long, almost ape-like but matted, maybe from the rain. She couldn't make out its face well, but its size and smell made it clear it wasn't any animal she'd seen before. She's hunted bear before, and this was no bear. The foul odor left when the creature did, confirming to her that it came from the beast itself. Even now, Barb feels uneasy about what's down in those woods. She's sure it's still out there. Watch the evidence.
Describe the hair on him at all?
Long.
Long.
Long hair. It wasn't short. It was long hair.
Despite the fear, Barb keeps a camera close, just in case. If she ever sees it again, she plans to get proof, and then run. But it's clear the encounter has changed her life. What was once her safe haven now feels like something she needs to protect herself from. It's not just the physical presence of the creature that lingers, but the fear of the unknown. She hasn't picked berries since. she won't wander her property like she used to.
He just really scared me. As I said, I couldn't get a good look at his face. He did look at me, but as I said, it was starting to get dark. But he had hair on his face.
And for someone who once called Long Island home, where people were the real danger, that says a lot. See the shift in her life. Jake and Adam end this visit convinced Barb is telling the truth. The emotion in her voice, the details in her story, everything lines up. Something unknown might still roam the Adirondack. Peter Kane Dog Training has been known for sharing unusual and sometimes controversial content. But this time, he presents something truly astonishing. A juvenile Sasquatch frozen since 1953. He claims that this creature has been preserved using dry ice, with slabs underneath and granular dry ice on top. For those unfamiliar with dry ice, he advises looking it up.
Sort of looks like a Christ figure laying there.
When my father shot the Bigfoot, September 23rd, 1953, he shot more than one.
According to Peter, his father shot the Bigfoot on September 23rd, 1953. However, this wasn't the only one. Multiple Sasquatch were involved in the encounter. When they began cutting up the larger ones, a juvenile suddenly appeared. It reacted in distress upon seeing its deceased parents and attempted to escape, but was shot in the back.
And when they were cutting they started cutting the big ones up, this small one, this juvenile, appeared.
The male and female Bigfoot were simply too large to transport out of the swamp, so they were cut up for easier handling. However, the juvenile was different. It was smaller, yet still a massive creature, estimated at over 300 pounds. Initially, they planned to transport it whole, but when they went to retrieve the body, they discovered it was still alive. At that moment, they debated whether to keep it alive.
And when the juvenile saw that the mother and father were dead, the juvenile took off and they shot this one in the back.
Peter recounts that his father and his group even considered selling the creature to the St. Louis Zoo. However, the Sasquatch was not as lifeless as they believed. It had merely been stunned and later regained consciousness. The sheer size of the creature was intimidating, as it took 4 people just to move it. Its feet were distinct with separated toes, and it had enormous hands. Peter describes how his father witnessed it behaving erratically before they ultimately euthanized it.
Now they continued cutting up the male and female Bigfoot because they couldn't get them out of the swamp. They were too big. This is a juvenile. It's like this would be a very large human.
Despite its injuries, the Sasquatch displayed remarkable resilience. Peter highlights its physical features, its hands, eyes, and other anatomical details that distinguish it from any known animal. He points out the creature's large testicles, reinforcing his belief that this was an entirely different species, far removed from any human or primate we currently recognize.
The girth on this animal, it's gigantic. It's over 300 pounds. It's a big animal. So they were cutting up the adults.
Peter recalls his father's concerns that the creature could come back to life. During the process of cutting up the larger Bigfoot, he noticed that their muscles twitched and their eyes occasionally opened. This led him to believe that the Sasquatch might have some kind of hibernation ability, making him anxious that the juvenile might not be fully dead.
And they were gonna transport this one whole. And when they went to go get it to put it in the boat, they noticed that it was still alive. So they were thinking, well, we'll try and keep it alive.
His father was not only worried about the Sasquatch reviving, but also about the possibility of someone discovering the juvenile's location. He feared that either the government or extraterrestrial beings would intervene and take the body away. Peter suggests that Bigfoot might not be of earthly origin, but rather an extraterrestrial species.
I know that my dad said that they had plans initially to talk to the St. Louis Zoo and sell it to the St. Louis Zoo.
To support his claims, Peter provides a close-up of the Sasquatch's eye and even showcases one of the guns used in the encounter. Though he isn't sure if this particular weapon was responsible for taking down the juvenile, He confirms that it was used to shoot at least one or two of the creatures.
But the beast that they thought was dead was just stunned, and it came back alive. You can't make judgments about my dad.
Peter then shifts to revealing more about the storage of the Sasquatch. He explains that it is kept in an underground bunker, one of many built by his father, who was a survivalist. The bunker is located somewhere in New York, though Peter refuses to disclose the exact location. He warns that no one will ever find it.
Look at that. If that creature was coming at you, you would do the same thing. That is a very large animal. You know, like I said, it's way over 300 pounds. It's probably over 350 pounds.
He also mentions that an infant Sasquatch was involved in the event. According to his father, the mother Sasquatch had killed the infant, although the reason remains unclear. This revelation adds yet another layer of mystery to the entire story.
Yes, and the toes are separated. And my dad said the thing went apeshit and started, trying to hit everybody, grabbing stuff, and they couldn't control it, so they had no other option.
Western NY Sasquatch Research is a YouTube channel dedicated to unraveling the mysteries hidden deep within the forests of Western New York. A brother and sister duo lead this mission with a no-nonsense approach, determined to find the truth behind Sasquatch and other cryptids that may roam the land. Their investigations take them to rural areas, nature preserves, and Native American reservations, where they search for clues that might prove the existence of these elusive beings. Unlike others, they refuse to waste time on misinformation, instead sharing only what they genuinely uncover. Their findings suggest that these creatures are not only real, but may be more intelligent and organized than most believe. The latest journey brings them to a remote mountain as a storm rolls in. The investigator is so focused on navigating the terrain that they don't immediately realize they've lost their way. Without a functioning GPS, they rely on natural landmarks to find their way back. As the sky darkens, the sense of being watched intensifies. Strange shapes emerge from the shadows, figures that seem to be moving between the trees. The camera picks up what appears to be a Sasquatch walking, and another figure peeking from behind a tree. If it's a juvenile, it makes sense that the larger one would track every move, ensuring the safety of its young. More dark shapes shift in the background, almost blending into the thick forest. The investigator starts to recognize the distinct voices among the sounds, almost as if they are different individuals communicating. This isn't just random noise. It's something intelligent observing, responding, and waiting. Watch closely as these figures subtly move through the trees, barely visible but undeniably present. As the search continues, the feeling of being watched becomes overwhelming. The investigator acknowledges the presence of something unseen, speaking into the forest, not with fear, but with curiosity and respect. They leave small gifts, hoping to establish trust. A few pieces of fruit, nuts, and a mix of snacks placed carefully on a log. This isn't the first time they've done this, and the results are always unpredictable. Sometimes the offerings disappear without a trace. Other times they're moved or rearranged, almost as if something has taken them but left a subtle message behind. The atmosphere grows heavy with an unspoken energy. There are noises, faint and distant, but real. Footsteps? Maybe. A low hum vibrates through the air, unnatural and unexplainable. Then, something in the distance moves, too far to identify but impossible to ignore. The forest holds its secrets tightly, but the investigator is determined to find the truth. Watch as the moment unfolds, an eerie encounter with something just beyond reach. A fresh tree break comes into view, one that appears unnatural. These signs are scattered throughout Sasquatch hotspots, often thought to be territorial markers or a form of communication. This particular break looks older, but it's still significant. The investigator takes a moment to examine it, questioning whether it was done recently or if time has worn it down. These beings seem to manipulate the environment to their advantage, shaping their surroundings in ways that aren't always immediately obvious. As the investigator stands in the quiet, an unsettling hum cuts through the air again. It's low, almost mechanical, yet it blends with the natural sounds of the woods. The question lingers, what is making that noise? Is it something biological? Or could it be connected to something else entirely? The feeling of unseen eyes watching remains, creating an eerie tension that refuses to fade. Something is out there, and it's aware of the presence of an outsider. Watch as the investigator processes these strange occurrences, trying to make sense of the unexplainable. Western Bigfoot Exploration is a YouTube channel dedicated to uncovering the mysteries of Bigfoot in the rugged and remote landscapes of the western United States. Jonathan, an experienced hiker and backpacker, ventures deep into the wilderness, far beyond where most have dared to go, in search of evidence. With each journey, he dives into the history of the land, explores the legends surrounding the creature, and brings his audience along for the adventure.
When they were making the logging roads in, and that's when Tom Slick found this camp on the map.
For some, the belief in Bigfoot is built on thousands of eyewitness accounts. Others approach it scientifically, examining footprints, vocalizations, and patterns of reported sightings. And then there are those who don't see it as a belief at all. It's a fact, something they know is real because they've seen it with their own eyes. In Northern California, one location has become synonymous with these encounters: Bluff Creek.
Jerry Cruz finding down there, and it wasn't but a couple of miles upriver, up creek, where they had the fuel barrels stashed, that Jerry Crew found the fuel barrels thrown into the creek too.
In the late 1950s and early 70s, logging crews working deep in the forests of Six Rivers National Forest returned to town with unsettling stories. Massive footprints appeared overnight. Heavy machinery was inexplicably overturned. Large humanoid figures lurked in the trees. In 1958, a road construction worker named Jerry Crew discovered enormous footprints in the dirt. His Hoopa native co-workers recognized them instantly, claiming they belonged to a giant that had always lived in these lands. Crew made a plaster cast of one of the tracks, and when a Eureka journalist published the story, it gained national attention. The legend of Bigfoot had taken root. On the afternoon of October 20th, 1967, everything changed. As they rode along the creek, a massive root system blocked their view of the path ahead. Rounding the bend, they spotted something moving. Patterson's horse reared, throwing him off, but in the chaos he managed to grab his camera. Sprinting forward, he fumbled with the device, but kept filming. The figure moved methodically through the clearing, its muscular frame unmistakable. The footage that followed would become the most famous Bigfoot evidence in history. Watch closely. Something worth seeing happens here.
Tree with a large root system impeding their view of what lie ahead. And when they turned the corner,
the daylight faded fast. Knowing the storm was closing in, Patterson and Gimlin documented the footprints left behind. Patterson swapped out the film under a tarp, still unsure whether he had captured anything of value. The rain hit hard the next morning, turning the route back into a treacherous mess of mud and washed-out trails. Gimlin skillfully navigated their truck out of the forest, determined to get the film developed. Once back, Patterson wasted no time. He met with Al Hodgson, a Bigfoot researcher and store owner in Willow Creek, urging him to visit the site. He insisted the footprints couldn't have been faked. There was only one set, no disturbances, suggesting a hoax. Soon, experts arrived, including journalist John Green and taxidermist Bob Titmus. Their conclusion? The prints were legitimate. More than 50 years have passed, but Bluff Creek remains a place of mystery.
Bigfoot stuff like that seems to happen all the time. Why don't you film it? Well, because my camera was, well, how was your camera low?
Jonathan sets out to retrace the footsteps of Patterson and Gimlin, venturing into the same dense forests. Navigating the thick brush, he quickly realizes how challenging the terrain is. The steep embankments, tangled vegetation, and winding creeks create a near impenetrable environment. Watch this carefully. This moment is telling.
Here goes that famous root ball. So this is what I'm guessing. We went down this way. I believe this is the way I already said.
As night falls, exhaustion sets in. Sitting by the fire, Jonathan watches the surrounding darkness, hoping his night vision camera will capture something moving in the trees. Then, a sound breaks the silence.
Did you hear that?
A long, resonant call echoes down the canyon. It's deep, powerful, unlike any known animal in the area. Listen closely. This could be important.
Did you hear that?
Just when it seems the night couldn't get any stranger, lights appear in the distance. At first, they resemble distant car lights flickering through the trees. Then, figures approach the camp. Unexpected visitors.
Well, someone's squatching on Onion Lake Road. We just heard a Sasquatch.
I see lights coming from over there. They look like car lights.
Rowdy Kelly of the Bluff Creek project and his friend Greg have arrived, bringing new energy to the search. As morning comes and the group packs up camp, something strange is recorded on camera. A 7.5-minute clip shows everyone standing within a few steps of each other. Then, less than a minute later, an anomaly appears. Something unexplainable. Review this footage carefully. Bluff Creek still holds its secrets. The footprints, the film, the stories. They all point to something existing in these woods, something that continues to evade discovery. Whether it's an undiscovered species, a lost primate, or something beyond explanation, one thing is certain: the search is far from over. Could something still be moving through these forests, hidden just beyond the firelight? Adirondacks is a YouTube channel famous for deep wilderness investigations, capturing strange and unexplainable encounters in the vast, untamed forests of the Adirondacks. The man behind the camera, Jonathan Rafferty, has spent years tracking what he believes to be an intelligent, elusive species. One that leaves behind footprints, vocalizations, and structures that defy simple explanations. Tonight's expedition is set deep in the wilderness, where he hopes to document more evidence of the creatures he suspects are watching from the shadows. The night is filled with tension as he presses forward, carefully navigating through snow-covered terrain. The goal is simple: leave offerings of apples and bananas in hopes of enticing something to interact. With a fresh snowfall blanketing the forest, any movement will leave tracks, making this the perfect opportunity to gather new evidence.
You know, I hate to have my head up and everything, because really honestly, like, they don't want to let light shine right in their eyeballs.
The deeper he moves into the wilderness, the more the landscape begins to feel untouched, as if no human has set foot there for a long time. It's the kind of place where something could be watching, something that doesn't want to be seen. The camera catches every step, every crunch of snow underfoot, and every flicker of movement in the dense trees surrounding him. Then, something unusual happens. A sound pierces through the night, echoing across the forest.
What a welcome treat that is. I mean, yeah, sure, they can find their own food. You know, cold, dead rabbit.
It's a bark, but not just any bark. At first, it resembles the sound of a house dog, but the location makes no sense. The noise is coming from the exact area where he was previously whistled at, raising immediate suspicion. Coyotes don't bark like this, and it doesn't fit the usual calls of wild animals in the region. Could this be something else? Something mimicking a dog? The thought alone is chilling.
I'm gonna have to free up a hand because I got a dog out here. I don't want to be fighting no dogs.
The camera captures the eerie stillness of the forest, the sound of the barking echoing through the trees, creating an atmosphere thick with uncertainty. Watch closely as the sound grows louder, creating a moment that will leave you questioning what truly roams these woods. As he moves forward, the situation becomes even more unsettling. There are fresh tracks in the snow, tracks that resemble those of a dog, yet something about them seems off. He follows them carefully, every step bringing him closer to the unknown. A decision has to be made. If this is truly a lost dog, he doesn't want to harm it. But if it's something else, something imitating the sound of a dog, what then?
They don't bark like that.
The air is heavy with anticipation, every shadow now holding the possibility of something lurking just beyond the reach of the flashlight. Strange things happen in the woods, and tonight is no exception. The tension is undeniable as the moment unfolds on camera. See for yourself as the tracks lead deeper into the wilderness, raising more questions than answers. The night takes an even stranger turn when he begins using vocalizations, hooting and calling out in an attempt to elicit a response. The wilderness has its own language, and sometimes calling out can stir the unknown. The reaction is unexpected. A powerful scream erupts from another mountaintop, far off in the distance. The sheer force of the sound sends a wave of adrenaline through the moment, as if something out there is responding. Is this a Sasquatch answering back? Or is it something else entirely?
Somebody's beagle running rabbits? Maybe that's what they're doing. Somebody's up here hunting rabbit. These dang beagle.
Whatever it is, it's large, distant, but undeniably real. The forest suddenly feels more alive, as if the night has shifted in an unexplainable way. Experience this moment as the scream echoes through the mountains, a sound that challenges everything we think we know about the deep wilderness. The expedition continues, with the realization that something is out here, moving in the same darkness. Whether it's a dog, a coyote, or something far more elusive, the night has delivered more than expected. The search isn't over, it's only just beginning. Every sound, every track, and every moment adds to the growing mystery of what truly resides in these remote regions. The evidence is mounting, and with each passing night, the line between legend and reality becomes thinner. What will be found next? Only time and the wilderness will tell.
So, could Bigfoot really be out there? These encounters make it hard to deny something is watching from the shadows. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe in Bigfoot, or is it all just a myth? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss what's hiding out there.